Hey guys, how you going? This is BillyEatWorld, and today we're going to be taking a look at the last DMR I have yet to review, the Kel-Tec RFB. As well as being new to the Battlefield series, the RFB in real life is a fairly new weapon, and it's interesting as far as DMRs go because it's actually a bullpup design. What this means is that the operating mechanism of the rifle is housed in the rear of the gun, which means that even though the gun has a full-length barrel, it's actually a lot shorter than a standard DMR. This means that the gun is a lot more portable and easier to maneuver in tight spaces, which is very important for urban combat. The RFB in Battlefield 4 is the first DMR in the unlock tree, so this is the DMR that I'd say most Battlefield players would be most familiar with. All the DMRs are fairly similar statistically, with a buff or nerf here or there so that they have their own strengths and weaknesses, but unfortunately the RFB has seemed to have gotten the raw end of the stick when it comes to stats compared to the other DMRs. Honestly, after playing with it for a few days, I still can't figure out why anyone would want to use this gun except to use it to unlock the Mark 11. The RFB deals a pretty standard maximum damage of 45 out to 15 meters, which drops off to its minimum damage of 38 at 80 meters. Like just about all the other DMRs, this translates into a 3-bullet kill at all ranges and a 2-bullet kill if you manage to land at least one headshot. It's also got the standard DMR 21 round capacity and the standard slow rate of fire of 260 RPM. Now, this is normally the point where I'd start to tell you what makes this weapon better than others in its class, but unfortunately the only advantages the RFB has over most of the other DMRs is its hipfire spread and moving ADS spread. The RFB and the QBU-88, being bullpup designs, have a hipfire spread of 2.25, which is slightly better compared to all the other DMRs, which have a hipfire spread of 3. It's not a huge improvement by any means, and it's certainly nowhere near as accurate firing from the hip as a PDW or a bullpup carbine. The RFB and the QBU both are marginally more accurate when aiming down sights on the move, with a spread of 0.762, compared to the other DMRs which have a moving ADS stat of 1. This buff is at the expense of their standing ADS spread though, which at 0.062 is slightly worse than average. The problem with both of these buffs is that they're pretty much irrelevant to a weapon that's designed to be an accurate long-range weapon. And the RFB, unlike the QBU-88, doesn't have the advantage of a faster rate of fire, so accuracy is even more important because you can't rely on volume of fire like you can with faster firing weapons. Its slow rate of fire also means that you're gonna get murdered at close range if you try and hipfire someone with this gun. Back in the BF4 days, when the DMRs were a 2-bullet kill at point blank range, hip-firing at close range targets was a viable option, and even on hectic close quarters maps, you could expect to do pretty well with the DMR. In Battlefield 4, this just isn't the case. The DMRs don't deal the same damage at close range, and they don't fire anywhere near fast enough. If you want to take out a target at close quarters, and you're using a DMR as your primary, that's what the 93R or the G18 is for. Also, when it comes to moving with the DMR, you're taking a massive risk because even 1 or 2 missed shots can lose you a gunfight. Even with the RFB's buff to this stat, it's still very inaccurate when on the move, which makes this improvement just as redundant as its buffed hipfire stat. So that's what the RFB does well, and we haven't even started on its weaknesses yet. The RFB has a painfully slow reload of 3.2 seconds empty and 2.5 seconds with a bullet in the chamber. Another big issue when relying on this gun for close quarters gunfights. The biggest issue with the RFB though, and what completely rules it out as an effective weapon whatsoever, is the fact that it only has a muzzle velocity of 460 meters per second. Hitting long range shots with a muzzle velocity this low is very difficult to say the least. In my ScarH SV review, I actually complained about its slow muzzle velocity, which is 40 meters per second faster than the RFB. The ScarH, in my opinion, is one of the least effective DMRs, and even it trumps the RFB in almost every stat that matters. The SKS also has a really slow muzzle velocity, but the difference between the SKS and the RFB is that the SKS fires much faster and it's designed to be a close quarters DMR, and the RFB isn't. I found myself not even trying to shoot moving targets because I knew I wasn't going to hit them anyway, and as soon as I fired, I was just going to give my position away. And when you give your position away with the DMR, that's the last thing that you want, because as soon as people close on you, you're at a distinct disadvantage and you're probably going to get killed. So in terms of attachments for this gun, well, there's not really a lot that you can do to make it better than it already is. There's really not a huge point in making this weapon more accurate for long-range targets, because if they're moving you'll be lucky to hit them anyway. This rules out the heavy barrel, the magnifier, and any of the higher powered optics. A laser sight would further improve the hip fire, but all it would be doing is improving a characteristic that you shouldn't be really taking advantage of anyway, so it isn't worth using. The suppressor isn't going to nerf this gun as much as it would with other weapons, so I guess you could probably run with it for lack of any other useful barrel attachments. And as for a grip, at the end of the day, the stubby grip isn't going to do you any harm on this gun, so you might as well use it to tighten up the spread a bit when you're spamming. So to wrap up this review, basically all I can say is that this is the hardest weapon review I've done to date, and this is definitely not a weapon I'll be using again. I dislike the Scar H SV, and I would pick it hands down 10 times out of 10 over the RFB. Maybe if in the future DICE patched the heavy barrel to increase muzzle velocity like it did with certain weapons in Battlefield 3, the RFB would be more of a usable weapon, but honestly until then this thing is a piece of junk. So do yourself a favour, and as soon as you've unlocked any of the other DMRs, just forget the RFB even exists. But anyway, that wraps it up, and if you like what you see, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. That's all of the DMRs done now, except for the SR338 recon weapon, which comes out very soon with the Naval Strike DLC. Over the next few weeks, I'll actually be taking a quick look at the M39 and the SKS again, as I reviewed these weapons pre-patch and they've changed a bit since. But in the meantime, if you have any other weapons you'd like me to take a look at, let me know in the comment section below and I'll see what I can do. And don't forget to check out all my other Battlefield 4 videos, they're all linked in a playlist in the description below. But until next time guys, see you later and have a good one.